Hello, Augies Worldwide. I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG, here with another episode of Ask Dave. Today we're going to do Commentariat, and it is Commentariat number 5. And today is the 8th of March, 2023, and what we're going to do is just simply look at the comments that have come in on the channel and respond to them, or just make note of them. So let's go ahead. Let's get started. Here's a comment that just came in 7 minutes ago. Okay, disc cones are pretty wideband, but suffer another problem. As frequency rises from the lowest usable range, the radiation angle becomes strange at a point where impedance is still good. The main lobe is well above the horizon. Great for talking to nearby aircraft. There you go. Okay, very interesting. I only know that the disc cones are very wideband and they're used quite a bit for scanners and stuff like that. I've not studied them. It sounds like I'm going to have to do that. Here is Tim Lee commenting on mounting antennas to a car roof. Says, I'm a relatively new to ham radio. I have HF radios, but I struggle to understand what all the controls are and what the purpose and when and where to set them. Is there a book or source that covers this for newbies? There is an ARRL operating manual that you can take a look at, but I'll see if I can do a video or two that just kind of explains what the controls are for and why we use them the way we use them. Okay, now this is on shortwave listening. Shortwave listening, oddly enough, is my most popular video with several 100,000 views. So thank you, sir. I'm about to get my first license and you cleared up a bunch of things that had me confused. Well, Philip, good luck on your studying. I hope that you soon get your tech and then soon after that your general and get on the air and you'll enjoy it. This is from Mark in Colorado. I am at a friend's house in Aurora, Colorado, trying to get his renewal done. The FCC site is so slow. Yeah. And the FCC should be embarrassed. I suspect they are. Broken links abound. The FCC is going through a process of moving from one system to another. And as currently happens, to renew, you need to use both systems. And you will do your renewal on one and then your payment on another. And you need to transfer the payment number over to the new system. I sat down with a guy one time who's not computer literate, a very, very good ham. And we spent 2 hours at field day trying to get his license renewed. And we did. Finally, we did. But, it was a struggle, a real struggle to do. So you have my sympathy. Good thing we only have to do it every 10 years. And by the next year or two, maybe they'll have these systems finally done the transition one to another, and you can do it all on one website. I sure hope so. Buttons King says, regarding mounting magnets to your car roof, mounting antennas to your car roof with magnets. And at 850, it says all metal parts of a car body should be well connected together and to one pole, usually the minus pole. Well, yeah, because the frame is connected to the minus pole of the battery. Yeah, I remember I did a video, it was a general training video on mobile operations, and I got a good look at the way Lou French does his with his truck. And he showed me all the ground straps and stuff that he had between door frames and the main frame and all the different things, the bed of the truck connected and so on. And it's quite a lot of work because otherwise it creates a little static as you go down the road. Can be a lot of static. So something you want to be careful. Now, a lot of bodies today aren't metal. For example, my Jeep has a plastic roof. Now, mind you, they don't expect the plastic roof to take the damage of a rollover because inside the Jeep are very sturdy roll bars. And putting an antenna on top of that Jeep is a problem. So what I have done is just set the 2 meter, 70 centimeter mag mount just over in a corner of the hood bonnet, if you're in England, on the hood where it'll stick there. And it seemed to work pretty good when we were down at Quartz Fest. So you can do something like that. There's somebody else who commented that they have an aluminum body truck. What do they do with that? That is a problem. You're either going to have to do a permanent mount, meaning drilling a hole in the top of the truck. Get somebody to do that for you so that it doesn't mess up the inside. You will have a hole in the truck, which will be an issue when you come to resell it. If any of the parts on there are steel, you can just put the magnet mount on that part, you know, like the hood or something like that. So take a look at that. Phil Parrish says, this is with regard to the new radio old amp. A lot of misinformation in this video concerning amplifier circuitry and functions of controls. Phil, that is an absolutely unhelpful comment. I make mistakes. I make them all the time, and I am happy to correct them. But I've got to know what the mistake is. I know that not everything in that video was bad. In fact, I can't think of anything in it that's bad. I think the information I gave will work very well. So, Phil, try again, because that comment doesn't help me at all. Okay, how about addressing, oh, this is the aluminum body. Can't use a mag mount. I'm trying to think of other ways you can mount. Bumper mount, or, you know, back bumper mount with a piece of pipe going up and then your hamstick or something like that going up from there could work. I had a Ford F-150. I've sold it. It was Silverado, and it was used, and it was, let's see, 2018, I think, and had it for a while, and then we traded in the truck and trailer for a motorhome. So, yeah, you can use something that's a screw mount to the rear bumper, which should be steel. And you can go up like from there. Also, the F-150 has some holes in the bed for mounting stakes and stuff. You can kind of stick something down in there, put a radial out or something, and see what you can do with that. Otherwise, I haven't really tried it. Yeah, and that's a problem. The magnetic mount equipment will only attach to ferrous substances, so it won't do much good. Here's from Sam Williams, again, mounting antennas to your car roof. The cheaper mag mounts use HVAC foil tape to make the capacitance work through the paint. If you want more capacitance, add counterpoise secured by magnets, glue a large fender washer on top, put a bolt on the bottom to attach the foil and make it stick out the top and easier to remove. Yeah, we don't want something scratchy to get in touch with the roof. Always, before you put your mag mount on, clean it so there's no dust there when you put it on, because otherwise just the wind will grind that dust right into the paint, and you don't want that to happen. Okay, so he's got some ideas here on adding more capacitance. Okay, and Joseph DeRoe says, thanks. Thank you. Tim DBL does DC grounding to the car frame chassis body, risk invalidating the manufacturer's warranties in the car electronics. I do not think so, but I would inquire of your dealer if you have a question. Tim DBL, I find I need a big triple mag mount on 7 megahertz and below to get enough capacitance to the roof. I get it off the roof quite easily by using the bottom of the mounted antenna as a handle to lever it off. I'm glad that works and that you don't break the antenna, because those are series magnets and they will probably not be moving very much. Okay, this is a buy YouTube videos views, links in bio. This looks like it is spam. I'm just going to remove it. There doesn't seem to be a way to report that as spam. Let's see, to get enough. Okay, not local. Oh, this is a correction on doing POTA. And I mentioned that in here. Not local. In the U.S. only, state and federal parks and similar entities. Not always just any old park. Gosh, I was thinking about some of the parks I used to frequent as a kid. Palmer Park, Maple Park, and so on in Glendale, California. But anyway, there you go. Thank you for the correction. I appreciate it. Dave Kiernan saying, would a vehicle grounding strap make any difference? It could. You could try it. But you'd have to get it up to the magnet mount and get it attached to the shield side of the coax. I'd run it both ways, and it could act as a bit of a counterpoise there. Okay. Every single mention of the MFJ 336 tri-magnet on the internet starts with the disclaimer you can't take it off once it's on the car roof. MFJ should probably sell some additional removal to or lever for it. Tom says, no joke. Luckily, my roof on my car isn't perfectly flat, so I can get my fingers under one of the magnets and lever it free. We had another comment a little while ago about if you have a sturdy antenna mounted to it, you can kind of use that to lever it off. Once you get something under one of the magnets, it's pretty easy to peel off. Pretty easy. I'm not sure I could do it, but it should be pretty easy. Okay, now we're talking about the classic Astatic D104 microphone, video number 311. It's a nice mic. WPG Interceptor says, best mic ever. I could be talking on it. My old man would pass gas in the other room, and people on the radio thought it was me. True story. That's fun. Okay. Mounting antennas to the car with magnets. I have a Nagoya TB320 with a magnet mount, but I'd like to bring in the house and place on my balcony. How large a piece of metal do I need for ground? Can I just use a large cookie sheet, or does it need to be a substantial piece of metal? Buttons King has answered and says it depends on the band you want to work on. The bigger the wavelength, the larger the piece of metal. Note that if you're using a magnet, it's got to be something ferrous, like steel. Now you can buy steel sheet, like, you know, in a filing cabinet like I've got behind me there. That's a steel filing cabinet, and a mag mount will stick to it, and the filing cabinet will act as a good counterpoise for it. If you're doing this for 2 meters, 70 centimeters, I would suggest getting a piece of metal that's 2 times 19 inches, 38 inches in diameter, sticking that there and putting the mag mount on it. Another thing you can do, if you have a metal balcony rail, which you may very well, you can try just attaching it to that. And see if it works. Try the two and see which works best. Ham radio is nothing if not experimentation. Okay, the next one, short end fed antenna, says thanks from Steven Suter. Mike Bavoso, and this is testing the DLG DI-120 ground earth resistance tester. Very well done. I see now why the oval clamp-on would be useful for flat copper strap, and the round clamp-on style would be good for cable. The one I have has an area about like that you can put it around, so you can put it around a ground rod, copper strap, so on. If your copper strap is too wide for it, just kind of bend it, put the thing around it so that it gets all the way around it. Okay, good day. May I ask for some advice? I have a VHS, which I think he means VHF, radio on the boat. There's a 50 ohm output for the antenna. It works within the range 156 megahertz to 6205 with power of either 1 watt or 25 watts. Unfortunately, the antenna on top of the mast is connected with 75 ohm coax cable. Now, I'm going to kind of translate here. Is there a need to replace it with 50 ohm cable? No. I have two questions. Whether working on this unmatched cable can destroy the radio? No. At most, it changes a 1-to-1 SWR to about 1.5 to 1 or something like that, maybe 1.6 to 1. Two, is it possible to use any balun or other way to achieve matching, done without laying down the mast? Yeah, but why? You can use 75 ohm cable. See, the thing is that the antenna impedance may be nominally 50 ohms, but it's strongly affected by what is around it. Any metal, and that could mean pulleys, that could mean anything at the top of the mast. So I would suggest finding a ham and getting hold of an SWR or meter, or I should say antenna analyzer. I have one here, which I have introduced with an unboxing, but I have not yet done a formal test on. Okay, is this going to work? Yeah, okay. This is the Mini 1300. It's the same. Now, this has an end connector on it. You can buy adapters that will give you either the SO239 or BNC. Okay, and I had the adapter for the SO239. But you can use something like this, and you can do either single frequency, which is that one right there, or frequency scanning, where you can do across a band or something like that. And so you can try something like this, plug it in, unhook the radio from, unhook the cable from the radio and hook it onto this. And if your SWR is less than 1.6 to 1, don't worry about it. It's fine. Okay? If it's grossly off, you've got a problem with your cable or the antenna. But I think you're not going to find too much of a problem there. An inexpensive but good antenna analyzer, and he mentions that his Rig Expert AA55 Zoom has an SO239 as an input connector. Good. Mine was shipped to me, it's over there, from Canada. The company gave it to me for review. It is a very nice analyzer. I've never tried the computer half of it. There's a software that goes with it that you can use. Just a moment. It's 48 degrees outside. And the dew point is -1, which leaves the humidity at 13%. That's pretty good. That means we can finally get rid of the snow. It's March, which in Colorado, the western slope, is called mud season. It's because the snow is melting and the ground is mud. Everywhere you look, the ground is saturated with moisture right now. And a good way to find that out is to try and take the trek out to the motorhome. You're going to get really muddy going out there. It'll dry up in April, but March is just plain mud season. So, let's see. So, yes, the ones that are designed to be sold in the United States have the standard SO239. Now this one is really set up for Europe. It's got the European bands on it. Their 2-meter band is 144 to 146 megahertz instead of 148. And they have a 4-meter band that we don't have. So this thing reflects that, but it still makes it a good antenna analyzer. And it does a lot of other things too, and they're very easy to get at, which is why I really like this. This is a vector network analyzer. Here's the part where it'll put an output to go through a filter into here so you can do a VNA, Smith chart, whatever you want to do. But it also has what I call the point and shoot mode. You want SWR? Push the SWR button. You got it. That's why I recommend something like this rather than a Nano VNA. The Nano VNAs are difficult to use. If you're a Linux programmer, they're easy. But I'd say only 5 or 7% of hams are Linux programmers. For those people, a Nano VNA is the way to go. But for the rest of us who don't think like Linux programmers, it's not. It's complicated, very complicated. You can learn how to use it and use it, but every so often they change the menu structure and then everything goes out the window. Okay, so this is conflicts between old amps and new amps. Problem is simple. He has an antenna with high SWR. There's nothing whatsoever wrong with the amplifier. Dave blew it completely on this one. Sorry to say, there are thousands and thousands of 2-based amps working perfectly with new rigs. I don't know. I'm not sure that that's what the question was about, because he was saying that he could work the antenna okay straight with his rig. So that sounds like the antenna is not that far off. Now, I also mentioned that the Pi network on a tube amplifier works a bit like an antenna tuner. Back when tube equipment was the rage, there were some transmatch things built, but the word antenna tuner had not come into vogue at all. And antenna tuners weren't really being sold, or very much. The one that I have, the MFJ 259B, maybe 20 years old, was a fairly new thing at the time. So people were using their Pi network and then adjusting their antenna and not paying the slightest attention to things like SWR and so on. I know I tried to. When I set up my first HF rig, I had a HW16 CW only Heathkit rig that worked on 40, 15, and 10. 80, 40, and 15. And I had an SWR meter, but I had no idea what to do with it. I just put up the antenna to the stock measurements, ran the coax, and operated. I didn't even have a ground. Of course, there's no external power supply. I mean, you couldn't ask for a simpler station. Now, the fact that a Pi network can act somewhat like an antenna tuner, because it is a matching network, it can't do it to infinity. I don't think you could load up bed springs with it, but they were pretty good. If you want to get an antenna tuner with the tube amp, you're going to have to get one of the high power wide range ones. They're not cheap. So obviously the first thing to do is to check the antenna. And because that'd be a lot cheaper than buying a $600 or $700 or $800 tuner. By the way, you know, the kind of tuner that we use for our 100-watt radios won't work for an amplifier. You'll blow it out. So, now, you said, Dave blew it completely on this one, sorry to say. Okay, this is not a helpful comment because it doesn't tell me what I blew. I don't think I blew that much, if anything. At this point, without somebody telling me specifically what I did wrong, I stand by the video. Okay, everybody's trying the new FT8, and he says, GRS 262 says 6262 says not everybody. Okay, well, very good. Conflicts between old amp and new radio, I can say from personal experience. Don't use an MFJ interface with the Collins 30L1. I smoked mine. Yeah. Build one drone. Now I'm trying to translate this. Build one drone, a very small relay. No problems. Okay, you can create, if you're having trouble keying the amplifier, you can put a relay in there, because the some of the modern radios can't sink very much current on the transmit thing, so you can put a little relay in there. Okay, Patrick Buick VE9ES on conflicts between the old and new. It's always good to get confirmation of what I already thought was the case. Now see, this is the exact opposite of this previous comment. You know, if you're going to tell me something's wrong, give me the time, tell me what's wrong, and I'll check it out. If I see the comment, I'll check it out, and we'll see what we can do to fix it. Okay, this is the same one. Steve Genoway says, very informative. I do not have an amplifier, but do have an LDG AT200 Pro I'm no longer using. Now I think I know how I can use it. I have an ICOM 7100 with no built-in tuner and a 7300 with a tuner for up to 3-to-1. LDG can handle 10-to-1. Yeah, they're very good tuners. Now, you can do this. What I would suggest that you do with these things is work on the antenna first, if you can. Now, if you've got something like an untuned loop, like a horizontal loop or even a vertically oriented loop, sometimes the SWR is just crazy. Feed it with ladder line, bring it to a tuner, and make it work. Now, somebody made the comment in here later that the best place for the tuner is right at the antenna, and that is true. A little hard to do with horizontal antennas, but you can with vertical antennas. You can put the tuner right at the base, and there are tuners made for this to be done. You can do this, and then you don't have any coax to worry about dissipating heat. The tuner works directly with the antenna, and you have very low losses, so that's something to keep track of. Conflicts here. AG5SU, Philip Leroy. I understand everything you're talking about, but I'm going to tell you right now that there are very few others out there that do. You went way too fast with way too much information, and we're way over a lot of people's heads. Slow down. Okay. Nobody else has said that. I generally never use 10 words where 25 will do. I'm pretty verbose. I'm sorry if that was a problem, but I'll keep that in mind. Okay? GT5R, just waiting on them to make a UK-EU variant. Okay, well, very good. Don't know what will happen. I know that they still sell the UV5R because they're so doggone cheap. They're junk radios, but people use them. Okay, Dave gave me some emojis, a radio and headphones. ICOM 7300 walkthrough. Okay, Axenfell. Great video, but you need to remove your hand. Most of the video you're pointing at stuff, but we cannot see what you point at because your hand is in the way. Good video, thanks. Well, I think I will click the sorry about that because I am sorry about that. Now, we had a question earlier about somebody wanting some sort of a walkthrough on how to use the radios. And I think that that would be a good idea. So let's go ahead and draw a line under this commentariat. We only got to comments that were one day ago. So, wow, get lots of comments. I would encourage you, if you know the answer to somebody's question, to go ahead and answer it in the comments. The only comments that are held for review are those that contain bad words and those that contain URLs. And the URLs, and I went through a bunch of them today, and I checked out some of the URLs and approved some of them, and others were just trying to get somebody to buy something, and so I deleted those. But please continue to comment. YouTube will look for certain words and things like that and hold it for review. I've allowed most of the comments to just go straight through. So there you have it. If you would like to help support this channel, please go to dcasler.com/support and pick a way that works for you. I'm kind of pushing Patreon right now because it seems to be the most customer friendly. Plus you can deal with it, change things, and do anything you want by yourself. If you put a message up there on Patreon, I'll get it. And I do tend to give preference to questions from patrons just because they're trying so hard to support the channel. That doesn't mean that you have to do that to get your question answered. I would say 80% of the questions I answer are not from patrons. Okay, so go ahead with that. So until we meet next Wednesday for an additional Commentariat 73.